as the video says, this is going to be cage trap 3.0. This on the bottom here is cage trap number 1, fixed off into the ground. There's no bottom in it at all, and the door was hinged from the top and dropped down. And I had this rail in here that dropped down to lock it off so the animal couldn't push that door back open. If you haven't seen the video, you can go check it out, but I did have a result. Cage trap number 2, I was testing out a couple of things. One, I wanted to have portability, but 2, I wanted to have a different door. So the door actually hinges from the bottom, and there's a mechanism underneath here to bring the door back up when it triggers. Again, had a result. Part 2 of this trap was this top door, and the idea was bird goes into it, the door drops down, bird comes out inside the trap, and then that door resets with the bait still in it. Another bird goes in, and it just can keep resetting and catch multiple birds. The first bird in there then attracts the others, and that worked as well. I'll put links to all these in the video description so you can click on them after you've watched this one. Lashing all these things on, you're talking hours and hours and hours of lashing, and all that cordage as well. In version 3.0, I really want to simplify it. That's what we're going to do in this video. Flatten those off on one side, and I've tried to straighten them up. It's going to be 2 pieces like that. Then the door will run up and down inside of that. I still haven't quite figured out how I'm going to actually make this thing. I know how I want it to work, but to get it to that stage, yeah, I don't know. I need to go cut some more wood. Yep. It's really all it is. Just a lot of chopping. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'll get back to you when I've got this all ready to start lashing it together. One issue I've got lots of issues. The one issue I've got with this trap is that nothing that I've got is actually straight. This door, it's relying on everything being straight. As it tries to slide up and down in there, it's going to come into contact. It's not going to be a smooth drop. It could get hung up and not close completely. As you can see, I have done a bit of work on this trap without filming it. I'm not going to show the entire process of building it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Once you attach one rail, they're all the same. Yeah, I've started doing the wiring on the top here, which you can kind of see there. I will show you how I go about doing that, but that was more just trying to figure it out for myself. The wire I'm using, which I'll mention it now in case I forget later on, it's 20 gauge galvanized steel wire. On Alone Australia, in previous seasons that I've seen, they're not allowed to use any traps that are going to harm the animal so that they can release protected animals. So traps like this are the only sort of thing they can use, and nets and things. One of their 10 items they can take is wire, and that's what this is, 20 gauge wire. You're allowed 20 or 21 gauge wire. The actual idea for the wire came from watching Michael Atkinson, Outback Mike. He was a runner-up on season 1 of Alone Australia, and in some of his videos that he did prior to launch, where he was showing his preparation, he was making this wire. And yeah, I like that idea, especially if you can't use it for snaring. Yeah, you can use it for shelter building and fish lures and things like that. But if you're allowed 2 pounds of wire, that's going to be a lot of fishing lures, and you've also got the paracord for doing your shelter. So this was 50 meters. You'd probably be able to have 150 meters of it to equal that 2 pounds. All I've got is 50 meters. Going to bury these legs in the ground, which will help stabilize the trap. If you imagine an animal in there rocking around, whatever I have in the bottom as the floor, I'm going to cover it with dirt and sticks and leaves and things anyway to sort of camouflage it. If I can do it out of wire, it just makes the trap lighter to carry around, and then it's going to have that dirt and leaf matter and stuff over the top of it anyway, so you're not going to see the wire when it's set. Done timber at the back. I'm going to do timber down to here on either side and on the top, and the idea with that is the bait's going to be in this back end of the trap, and I want to make it really difficult for the animal to to get at it. So it's going to come around, it can't get through to that bait. It comes around to the sides where it can see through the wire, and it goes, oh, it feels like it's getting close to getting to it, and then it will make its way around and through the end. This top piece, this piece here, I want to be able to remove that one. They'll all be lashed off. This one's going to be removable, and then I can reach down in there to put the bait on. Whereas if I don't have this piece here, I've got to try to reach in through the end of the trap all the way in here to set the bait, and then I'm putting my scent all through it. For me, this is me learning something new and trying something different and experimenting with it. I also want to experiment with the tools I'm using to see how different tools work. Again, if you're in a situation where you've only got minimal tools, it might be just a Leatherman, seeing what I can do with that. So that's why you'll see me jumping between one tool and then I'll jump to another tool, and it's just so I can try out using different things for the sake of trying out different things. Now I'm still yet to put any sort of bracing on this thing, so it's racks all over the place. If you know anyone at Silky, send them a message from me and say, hey, there's this Australian guy that really needs a katana boy. That was a bit of work, especially that bugger. Put a bait in there or whatever, I can pull that out, reach in through the top, put it back in there when I got it all set up, put these little wedges back in place, and that locks it all in nice and tight. Still haven't showed you doing the wire, but I will show you on this last side. That's what I've got left, and this is actually 10 lengths, so I pre-measured all of this to work out how much I have left for the bottom. This side here is 10 lengths, so this other side will be the same as that. So that's my little pressure plate. It's going to get lashed off to this axle here. So then when the trap is set, this will be up in the air like that, the bait will be up here, and the animal steps on this, which triggers the trap. Timber up this side, timber up that side, wire, door. Pretty quick and easy, eh? If I've got a heap of tiny little ones, tiny little rails, each one of those knots is two minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is. So the more of these I've got, the more time it's going to take me to lash them all on. If I can get something like that, as opposed to that, split it in half and lash that on, I've still only got a lashing and lashing. So whether it takes me 2.5 minutes to lash this on, 2.5 minutes to lash this on, it's still the same. But I've got two for the price of one, so I'm halving my time to lash all these on by using these bigger pieces. It's a bit of ficus that I cut ages ago. It's a lot lighter than this other timber, which is great. It means it's going to keep my weight of my trap down a little bit. This offcut that came off of this thing, there's no cracks or anything in it, but it'll definitely float. I might keep this and make some fishing lures out of it. If you want to see a bushcraft fishing lure build, catch and cook, put it in the comments, let me know if that's something that's going to interest you. Something like that. You hear some noise in the background, it's because we've got a big storm coming through at the moment. So there's a bit of thunder around. Lengthwise, 1, 2, just under 3, and that's just a bit too short. If I hadn't have done it that way, I wouldn't have had enough to do everything I wanted to do. So it does mean that I have to lash it on one side rather than using the wire to secure it. All I do, fold it in half, then slip that on either side of that rail, give it like 3 or 4 good twists. The other thing I'm doing is, you see the wire runs over the top of this one, so it comes across over the top and then under. This one up here, I want to alternate it. I don't know if it makes a difference at all, but that's all I'm doing. So that one's going over. At the moment this one's going over, so I just bring it under. So it's just alternating over, under, over, under. Now what I've used here is 50 metres. 100 metres you could well and truly do this whole trap without having the timber on here, so it'll be a lot lighter. You've got to work with the materials you've got. You can't work with materials you don't have. And I had 50 metres. It's more about showing the concept of the wire more than anything else. And that's all it really is. Just working through, put another one on, work it back across, another one on, work it back across, feed it through, find that centre spot where you kinked it, and then just twist it on. The thing you want to be really careful of if you're doing this, and if you've got safety glasses, wear them, because you've got these little ends of the wire here and they're flicking around. You don't want one of them going in your eye. That would be a bad day out, definitely. So yeah, just be aware of that. You can bend them down that way when you're working on them, just to avoid getting them in the eye. So you've seen what I'm doing here. I don't need to film any more of this. I'm just going to keep working on it, but I've got to pack the camera away because it is raining, and yeah, the camera's not waterproof. I'll get back to you when I'm done, or when the rain stops. One or the other. Flattening it off and thinning it down at the same time so it slides up and down inside of there. I'll get back to you. Alright, that's pretty good. I've got the big sucker to do. I've got those flattened off. As the kookaburras start up. What I need to do, I don't know if you can pick that up, but this side here closest to me, it's leaning forward. So I actually need to pull it back to straighten things up. If I pull that, it's going to pull that frame back. Hopefully you can see that. So then my rail will slide through that. The other thing is I need these two rails to be parallel. But at the moment they're leaning in like that. So I need my door to be the same width so it drops right down. See what I'm talking about? This side leaning in, so you got a wide gap at the bottom and then it narrows to this little gap here, and I need to spread that apart as best as I can. This is the height I wanted these rails to be, and that would make life a lot easier lashing that top rail in there of the door. However, if I wanted to do that with this green timber, I would have had to cut another tree down to get the length that I needed. So I wasn't going to do that. Instead I've just made them equal lengths and got them as long as I could get them, and now I've just got to deal with it. Even if it was up to there, it would have been better. So I've got to lash that on that. If I lash it like that, I can't fit it into the doorway. I could have if it was above it. So now I've got to do a halving join to try to get that the same thickness. Just means more work. Alright, well that only took me about 45 minutes to do one joint, but that's what it looks like when it's done. Now if I had glue or nails or pins or anything like that, I could fix that off to there, but I don't have that, so I'm going to have to lash it on. But I've still got 3 more to go, so I have to do that 3 more times, so it's going to take me another couple of hours. So I'll get back to you when I'm done. Oh man, I'd like to be able to say that it only took me a few minutes to do this, but it's the next day, and yeah, I've been working on this thing for quite some time. It's not just a matter of cutting the joints, the halving joints, It's also about trying to get them all the same, on the same plane, so that when I lash it on, this doesn't end up being out like that, and then I lash on the next one, it's back like that, and my door's all twisted and I can't actually get it in. So I still don't know if it's going to work, but give it a crack. I've got to actually cut little recesses into this so I can try to lash it on. Fun times ahead. Right, after a little bit of work, we've got that lashed together. Let's see if this thing will actually work. So this is going to slip in through here, down through there, and that's kind of what I'm afraid of. So it's going to be set like that. Try that. That'll work. So it's a matter of just tweaking it with that truckie's hitch on there, just to twist the thing around. But it's repeatable. So I've lashed that center rail on there, on that door. It's going to sit there somewhere like that, and then there'll be a stick holding that. Trigger gets pulled, the door's going to drop. And it's getting darker here. It's morning, like sunrise. The sun's up. And it's just clouds are moving in, threatening to rain, and it's just getting darker and darker. It's a oomy old day. Yeah. And as I speak, here comes the rain. Right. To say this thing's taken a bit of finessing, be an understatement. It's starting to rain again. I think I've got this door at the point that I want it, or how I want it. You really got to do this and set it all up first, and then finesse the trigger. But it works. Right, I'll pack that camera away again because there's rain. All I've got left to do now is lash a rock on the top here, so I've just got a bit more weight as that door comes down, and that's about it. I don't know if I should call it done. I'm a little bit concerned about how much weight you have to actually put on the trigger to make it release. I've always thought, yeah, I might be targeting feral cats, possums, whatever it might be. I also thought this could be alright for a bird. You could catch a bird in here and keep it alive as an attractant for other birds to bring them in. But if you have to have like 2 or 3 kilos of weight on that trigger to actually make it release, you're not going to get that from a bird. All that weight on that pin that has to be pulled out. But the other thing too is the amount of friction on this pin as it goes underneath the timber. It's made contact all the way along. I've tried to carve it out a bit. I'll get it set up in position where I want it, get everything balanced, make sure the trigger and everything works, and then I'll come back this afternoon, put a bait in it, set up the trail cam and set the trap and leave it in overnight. So I'm not going to do it during the day just because I'm not going to be here. And if an animal happened to go in it during the day, whether it's a bird or anything else, it's going to be stuck in there all day. It's going to be a hot day. It's not going to have any water. So yeah, I don't want that. I'd prefer an animal to get caught at night time, so it's not going to be as hot. It's not going to be stressed as much. And then first thing in the morning I can come and release it if it's a non-target species. I didn't show you this, did I? Sorry. This door's got real heavy. So I lashed a rock to the top of that door, and it just adds a fair bit of weight. So this door now weighs probably 2 kilos, I guess. So it's a fair bit of weight, but what it does mean is for portability, this is heavy, that's heavy. So it's really a two-part trap now. I'll take this piece, get it all set up, and I'll come back and grab that. I actually had a cage trap here once before. I've lashed this little stick onto here. It changes the direction of the pull, so instead of coming straight back, it pulls it sideways. That's set pretty fine. Well, I thought it was. I was putting about 1.5 kilos on that, and it wasn't going off. Alright, I've got like a kilo on that, so I'm still not happy with it. That's set pretty fine, but still, I'm putting a couple of kilos on that, and it's not triggering. This is about making a trap that's going to work. And I don't believe this thing's going to work the way it is. Alright. Alright. Something like that. Let's see how much pressure. Man, that's good. That's so good. Like when I had that other trigger system set up on it, I was having to put like 2, 3, 4 kilos on it to make it release. Then I just had on it maybe 100 grams, 150 grams at most. Like, yeah, I reckon if you put a pigeon in there, it would have set that off. Yeah, it was really good. It's a lot more finicky to set than I wanted. Takes a fair bit of finessing to get it right. But man, she's a good trigger when it goes off. Like, it's just a little bit of weight on it and boom. Happy with that. Alright, I'll leave this till the afternoon, come back and get some bait in here and set this thing up. Well, it's the afternoon. Got about 10 minutes till sunset. Probably about 30 minutes till last light, 35 minutes till last light. Wait and see what happens. I added some extra timber to the back of this trap. Just didn't lash it on real well. I just shoved it in the ground and a bit of cordage there just to hold it in place, just to make it a lot more difficult for anything to try to get through the back. Force them to come around the sides and then to this end. Right. Yeah, hair trigger. This has to go in there. Right, that's a pretty delicate trigger right there. It's only just on the top there, just on down here. So anything that goes on that trigger, that platform, definitely going to set this thing off. That's if the wind doesn't set it off beforehand. I did say that the trigger was set pretty fine. I didn't even get to turn the camera off. Alright, got a little bit of bait left over. I'm just going to drag that through the bush now and leave a bit of a trail leading to the trap. And we'll check it tomorrow, see what happens. pretty excited. It's early morning, I can just see the trap from where I am, walking into it, and there's definitely an animal in the trap. I don't know what it is at this stage. It'd be interesting to see if I got that on the trail cam. Let's go have a look. So got ourselves a cat in the trap here. It's got no collar on it. I mean, it's probably scared being in the trap, but it doesn't have a collar on it. And there's a lot of feral cats in this area. If I had to make a guess, I'd say this thing's a feral. I had the trap set for one night, and looking at the trail cam, there was an owl in the area. I landed right here somewhere, and then from here it flew down and landed on top of my the trail cam. But I don't know if the owl landed on top of this trap and triggered it, like the extra weight caused the door to wobble and it triggered the trap. But since then we've had rain, and I've left this trap unset since that time. And then last night was the first night that I've actually reset this trap. I put some fresh bait in there and reset it and dragged some bait around the area. And this is the result. If you get a cat in the trap, then you're definitely going to get a possum. If you get the right bait in there and a possum's interested. If it's a young one, it's not too smart, you might get a fox go in the trap as well. I don't really know what to do with this cat, to be honest. I know people sitting at home will say, oh, it's a cute little kitten, cute little cat, let it out, let the little kitty cat out. We have a huge problem in Australia with feral cats, like huge problem. Cats and foxes are the two big problems, and they're both non-native. So the foxes were brought in as sport and fur way back in time. Feral cats have just naturally been dumped and escaped or roamed off and bred up, and they're all over Australia, and they do so much damage to the native wildlife. If this cat had a collar on it, it'd make my life a lot easier, because I could just say, okay, it's someone's pet, it's got a collar on it, I'll let it out. But it doesn't have a collar on it. It seems pretty wild, but you know, it's obviously scared because it's in a trap. But that's the good thing about this trap. The cat's unharmed. You know, any other animal that had gone in there would be unharmed. So yeah, it's banged around the cage trying to get out. It's had a good fright, but it can, if I want to, I can let it out of there. It's going to run off, and you know, it's going to be no worse for wear. I purposely didn't set the trap because it's been so hot. So I set it yesterday and I caught it here at first light, so the animal didn't have to be in the trap for too long if I did get an animal. What do you reckon, Cat? Should I give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're someone's pet without a collar and just let you out? I mean, you're still going to be, even if you're someone's pet, you're still going to be killing native animals. So that's just in your nature. I'm about 90% certain this thing is a feral cat. But 90% isn't 100%. And there are houses all around here that may have a cat, mightn't have a collar on it. So I'm going to have to let this thing out. As much as it bothers me to think that I'm letting out a feral cat, yeah, it's just, I can't be certain that it's not someone's pet. It's just a note to people, if you've got a cat, put a collar on it and a bell so it gives animals at least a chance, and it also avoids any situation like this where someone might be trying to decide whether to put a bullet in your cat's head or not. But it's your lucky day. Another benefit of it with this timber is it gives the cat somewhere to, or the animal somewhere to sort of hide. If this was all wire, it'd be freaking out because it's got nowhere to hide. At least with the timber there, it feels a little bit more secure and safe in that back corner. Come on. So the trap works. I changed the trigger. Originally, well, I've changed the trigger twice. Originally I had that pin. I wasn't happy with that. It was just too hard to pull it out. If it was all metal and nice and smooth, it'd be a lot easier. So I changed up to this system. But originally I had a thinner stick, like that sort of thickness, and I was finding that difficult to try to get it to balance. Like you can't put it on an angle like that Let me use a bigger stick so you can see it. Can't put it on an angle like that or even like that because it just gives out. It just kicks out because of the weight on it. So you have to have it so it bows back in. So if you can get a stick that's got a bit of a bow to it, so it naturally hooks into the little notch that I've got there, but then it's pressed against the door and down. It's still, any little pressure on it's still going to give way. Changed up to a bigger one, and you can see there where it was forked. I've just cut it off deliberately there so then I can get it closer. So if I put that hard up against the door like that, it's hooked in. Whereas if I didn't have that, I'd have to have it like that away from the door to make it hook in. So having that little thing allowed me to get it hard up against the door as well as being hooked into that notch. And then yeah, I cut another little notch in there just to level it up, because when I had it cut like that it wasn't level. So by cutting a little notch I can have it so it's somewhat square, and then when the cat pulls on it, it just disengages. So yeah, happy with how that worked. I'm going to go have a coffee to celebrate the success of this trap. Thanks for watching, catch you in the next video.